Okay, so I'll get started. So thanks for joining us today for these two road safety audits in the town of Abington. Today we're going to be doing looking at Rockland Street. I'm sorry, Brockton Avenue at Rockland Street and Elm Street, and then Randolph Street, which is 139 at Chestnut Street and Old Randolph Street. Um, Here's an agenda for today. So I'll start off with some introductions, and you can see how the process is going to work. So first, we're going to talk about the Route 139 at Chestnut Street intersection. So that'll be first, and then at that point, I'll be handing it over to my colleague Ray Garino, and he's going to go through the other intersection. So for those of you who haven't been through the road safety audit process before, this is really meant to be an open discussion, open participation amongst everybody. So I'm going to go the next 10 minutes or so. I'm going to talk about some background data with this intersection, and then we'll kind of get down to the nitty gritty of identifying issues that we see with this intersection and any potential improvements that can be made. But first, start with introductions. So I'm just gonna go down the list in the order that's on my screen and participants. So it's really no particular order. It's just the way it's listed on my screen. So my name is Bill McNulty. I'm a principal transportation planner at Old Colony Planning Council. Charlie, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. I'm Charles Killer, Assistant Director and Transportation Program Manager with the Old Colony Planning Council.
Mary, you.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending this meeting. And my name is Mary Waldron, and I'm the Executive Director of Old Colony Planning Council.
Thank you, Mary. Ray?
Ray Garino. I'm a Principal Transportation Planner with the Old Colony Planning Council.
Thanks, Ray. John Stone?
John Stone, Town of Abington DPW Director.
Thanks, John. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Bill.
Anna?
Hi, everyone. Anna Phil with Mass DOT Traffic and Safety.
Thank you. Sorry, my thing's jumping around on me. Bianca?
Hi, I'm Bianca Marshall. I'm with Mass DOT District 5 Traffic.
Thank you, Bianca. Vivian?
Hello, I'm Vivian Ortiz with the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program, and Abington is in my region. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Hi, Scott Lambiase. I'm the town manager for the town of Abington.
Thank you. Kevin Fitzgerald?
Hi, I'm Kevin Fitzgerald. I'm with Mass DOT's Traffic and Safety section.
Chief Nuttall?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. John Nuttall, the Abington Fire Chief. We also have Jack Lynn, the Deputy Fire Chief. This is his first traffic study. He'll be joining us today too.
Great, thank you, welcome. Jason?
Hi, Jason Walters, MassDOT District 5 Projects.
Thank you, Jason. David Soares?
Hi, David Soares. I'm the District 5 Traffic Engineer for Mass DOT.
Thank you, David. Bruce?
Hi, everyone. I'm Bruce Hughes. I'm the Vice Chair of the Abington Planning Board.
Thanks, Bruce. And we have Sean, you want to introduce yourself? I know you're muted. Maybe you can't, but.
Yep, nope, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Sean Bailey. I'm a Senior Transportation Planner with the Old Colony Planning Council.
Okay, thanks, Sean. And
Sean looks like he's live from Route 123 in Rockland.
Yes, and if anybody would like to view either of the viewpoints, you can either scroll to my video or the other video, hit the three dots in the upper, I believe, right-hand corner and hit pin if you would like to see a continuous live feed from either of our screens.
That's great, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
And last but not least, Kyle.
Hi, I'm Kyle Mowat. I'm a senior transportation planner at Old Colony.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone on that I missed? All right, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone. Thanks for coming today. So just to give you some background on this project. So this is part of a larger project in the Old Colony MPO's Unified Planning Work Program for this federal fiscal year 2021. We're looking at high crash locations in our region. We went through a data-driven process last fall, selecting high crash locations from our safety management program. And so the criteria that we used were, we used an equivalent to property damage only methodology that really ranks severity of intersections. We also reached out to communities for their input as well. And we came up with a pretty robust list. It was, honestly, the list ended up being longer than we thought it was, but the goal is to identify measures that can be taken at these locations, particularly lower cost projects and measures that can be implemented relatively quickly, and that can really go a long way right now to addressing safety at these intersections with the goal and objective of reducing roadway fatalities and serious injuries or incapacitating injuries. And so in the town of Abington, we came up with these two intersections, both ranked fairly high. Actually, the one that I'm about to go through, Route 139 at Chestnut Street and Old Randolph Street, that's actually ranks amongst the highest in the community. I'm sorry. Ranks one of the highest and one of the most hazardous in the region. We did a Route 139 corridor study probably about 10 years ago now, so it's dated. It's been a while since we looked at it, and it was time that we'd look at it again. Same thing with the other intersection, 123 at Rockland Street. That was a location that we hadn't looked in a while. It had a high crash history, so that was another look. That was a criteria for selecting that intersection. So Randolph Street, Route 139 at Chestnut Street, this just gives you an idea geographically where it's located in the town. It's in the northern part of the town, close to the Weymouth town line. 139 in this area is primarily a north-south roadway. Chestnut Street runs east to west, crosses over to Old Randolph Street, which then turns northward. This is a part. Chestnut and Old Randolph is a popular east-west connection in the region, particularly getting from Brockton, the Brockton area, over to Route 18 and Route 3 in Weymouth. This is the primary route if you live in the western part of Abington or in Brockton and you want to get over to Route 3. This is the route it takes you. So this is a closer aerial photo of the area. So you can see it's in a fairly densely developed residential neighborhood. There is an elementary school in very close proximity. There's a playground in very close proximity. So there's quite a bit of pedestrian activity through here, particularly in the warmer weather. I don't know how many actually walk to the Woodsdale Elementary School, but certainly families walk to that playground and cross through this intersection. So some background data. So Route 139 in this area in 2018, I had a average daily traffic of just over 18,000 vehicles per day. So it's up there. It's a busy roadway. The 85th percentile speed is 50 miles per hour, which is significantly over the posted speed limit. Posted speed limits in each direction are 35 miles per hour. The road inventory file shows that on one side of the intersection, it's 40 miles per hour, and the other side 35. So we haven't had an opportunity to get the actual speed permit for this location yet to see what exactly the speed limit is, but it's somewhere in that 35 to 40, and regardless, the prevailing travel speed is over the speed limit. So that's certainly a factor at this location. Percent of heavy vehicles is 7.3%. It's pretty standard for a state numbered route. And this section is under local jurisdiction. So it's a state numbered route, but it is under the jurisdiction of Abington. Chestnut Street has an average daily traffic of near 6,000 vehicles per day. 85th percentile speed on that roadway, also fairly high, 39 miles per hour. And that's it's high regardless, and then considering it's a fairly short distance between Hancock Street and 139. That's fairly high travel speed, and percent of heavy vehicles is also 7.3% on Chestnut. Then on Old Randolph, volume is a little bit lower, just shy of 3,000. The 85th percentile speed on that roadway is 35 miles per hour, and percent of heavy vehicles just over 5. So these are just some viewpoints of the intersection. So this is looking at the intersection from the north. So looking southbound on 139, you can see it's this view doesn't do a great job at pointing out the geometry, but it is a very skewed geometry. Earlier, the aerial view that I showed did show that Old Randolph Street comes into this intersection at a very different angle that Chestnut Street does. So it's a skewed geometry. Old Randolph is also a little bit offset from Chestnut, so that complicates complicates movements through this intersection as well. And this is from looking from the other side. This one does better job showing that skewed geometry. This is looking from Chestnut Street. You can see get an idea in this photo. On the left-hand side, on the driver's side, there's vegetation on that corner. When driver pulls up to that intersection, they're contending with a fairly significant horizontal curve throughout this entire intersection, and as well as vegetation on that corner. So sight lines looking to the north are very limited. That stop sign does have a lighted border on it. It's solar powered. That's relatively new, last year and a half or so that was installed. And then this is looking from Old Randolph Street. So again, you can see that the approach is offset from Chestnut on the other side. You do have fixed objects on the passenger side of the vehicle, complicating sight lines looking in that direction. So this is the crash data, and I realize I'm going pretty fast. I did send out this data and this analysis ahead of time. I hope that everyone had a chance to look at it. If you didn't, and I'm going too fast, you have specific questions, let me know, and I can kind of address it as best I can. But so we looked at 4 years of crash data, 2017 through 2020. Typically we do 3 years, but since 2020 was such an odd year with a pandemic, it dropped volumes significantly on the roadway. It also affected crash history. So we included 2020, but then we also added 2017 on the back end. So on the front end, I should say. So we have 4 years of data. In that time period at this intersection, there were 38 crashes, 11 with injury. And I realize, the print on the screen for the actual crash database there is small, but you can see the collision diagram here. collisions are kind of happening all over the place. The one that seems most common is a vehicle coming out of Chestnut Street and then colliding with a vehicle coming south, or in this diagram coming east on 139. That's the one that seems to be happening the most. That's not surprising. That is the one corner where there are most severe sightline issues. Speeding is probably I don't have the bidirectional speed with me, unfortunately. It's just my own knowledge of serious speeding speeds are probably a little bit higher coming southbound on 139 as opposed to coming north. That's just my personal experience. But regardless, so that's the most common type of collision here. Those two movements, but certainly collisions are happening with all different types of movements. So this these next few charts just break down the characteristics of the crashes. Again, nothing really jumps out in these charts. It's kind of fairly steady. So you can see time of year. It's fairly steady. A little less in the summertime. The spike in November for whatever reason. Day of week. Weekdays more than weekends. Not surprising. Time of day. The morning, early morning, and the commute time, and also when people would be going to that school. That's when crashes are a little more likely to happen than other times of day. Most of the crashes do happen during daylight hours, not a lot in the overnight, a few in the evening. The overwhelming majority of crashes here are angled collisions, as you saw in that collision diagram. But there is a significant, at least for, in terms of intersections that we look at, there's a significant number of single vehicle crashes. 24% of the crashes at this location are single vehicle. Roadway departures. One of those single vehicle crashes was an animal strike. Driver struck a deer. But this is probably due to that big curve going through this intersection and just the weird geometry. I often see, when I did my site visit last week, I saw some drivers coming from the east on 139, turning left onto Chestnut, making that turn trying to make it relatively quickly and almost overshooting Chestnut Street. And I've just driving through that before. I've seen that also happen before. So I think I attribute that to just the geometry of the intersection. Light conditions. The roadway is, fairly well lit at night. Regardless, there were 34% of crashes that occurred after dark. Most of the crashes happen in fair weather, dry conditions. Less than 20% happen in wet conditions. In terms of pavement and being slippery, that doesn't really appear to be an issue here. And driver ages for crashes trended a little on the younger side. So, a lot of the drivers were under 40 years old at this location. So that's some background data, and I realized that I went through that relatively quickly. But this is where we started, just kind of discussing issues. We are going to be recording any issues that are brought up. We have a staff member who's writing it down, taking notes, and it'll be in the final report. But so at this point, I'll open it up to anyone.
Hi, Bill. It's Jason Walters. I just had a question. Do we know the roadway width for the travel lane width for Route 139?
It's standard. It's at least 12 feet in each direction. It's probably, to be honest, it's probably a little bit more than 12 feet. It's probably about 13 feet, but when we're doing this report in the next week or so, we're going to go out and physically measure those lane widths.
Got it. Thanks.
Hi, Bill. This is Anna with DOT. I noticed that aside from this, and I know there's been no crashes recorded involving pedestrians or bicyclists, but it seems that you don't really have any. Is this the location that doesn't have any ramps on your on the crosswalks? It seems like it's curb, and also given the because of the intersection geometry, especially the crosswalk across Route 139 seems pretty long for, for a location with that much speed. And, so I feel like, especially since you mentioned the playground and the elementary school, some of the pedestrian accommodations, I'm just wondering if need to have a closer look just because of what's out there today.
Yeah, it's definitely a long crosswalk, and yeah, it's one issue that we did notice. Yeah, we at least on the looking at that crash history, we only went back those 4 years. I'm not sure if we've had any. I can certainly look in the MassDOT's crash portal and see if we've had any pedestrian crash involved crashes there over the years. But yeah, I agree. It's for the speeds on that roadway, it is a long crosswalk, and they are exposed, and the sight lines definitely don't help either.
Hey, Bill, we just noticed that Curtis Boucher from Representative Sullivan's office has joined the road safety audit.
Oh, great. Thank you. Welcome. I'm happy to have you here.
Bill, can I make a comment about speeds there?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, I'm old enough to remember when old Randolph Street was Randolph Street. I guess that's how old I am. But anyway, coming from Holbrook, you've got that long straight, goes past Hallmark, goes up to the intersection of Randolph, Chestnut Street, Hancock Street rather. And then you've got another long straight. So I don't know, what's Deputy Chief, the speed limit there, is that 30 right there at Old Randolph and Randolph Street and Chestnut Street, or is it 35 or 40? Because I mean, it's a long straight. See, people are starting to slow down when they come down to that part of 139, but I think it's 40 right after Chestnut Street, almost up to 139. So I think there's some speed differences and some straights. So it's one thing to approach the intersection from Holbrook. It's another thing to approach the intersection from 139 in terms of speed differentials. I wonder if that makes any difference with the operation of that intersection.
It is posted 35 miles per hour just west of the intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that as I said earlier, that's one thing that we're going to check on. We're going to get that speed permit and see exactly where those speed zones are. Looking at the road inventory file, it showed 40 miles per hour the speed limit, but then signed out there it's 35. So,
you got people going toward Holbrook, and say people are turning left to go down Chestnut Street, and you sort of got to go around them to go, continue to go straight toward Holbrook and stuff like that. And I mean, you got to really be careful and watch what you're doing there. And then in the morning, I think there used to be a school crossing guard there. And of course, that's another issue, but it's just that the people who are going toward Holbrook and they got to turn to go to Chestnut or go to Old Randolph in those, and it's, it's skewed four-way, as we said. And then people might be building up speed to, get on that long straightaway down where the apartments are and stuff like that. So I think the speed is definitely an issue there.
Yep. Yeah, definitely is. One thing that I noticed, this intersection doesn't have any advanced warning signage at all. There's no intersection ahead sign. There's nothing. So that would definitely be something that we highlight and should be addressed, in short order.
Bill, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Recently, we've undertaken a project to turn all our streetlights into LEDs, and I don't think they've hit that area yet. So it might be brighter at night soon.
Okay, great.
And last year, we repainted all the stop bars and crosswalks at the intersection. But I just think the overall configuration of the intersection, there's really not much we can do to make it safer. Maybe those signs that you alluded to earlier would help, but other than that, it just seems the configuration is offset.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the really big issue here, is that offset alignment and the sightline issues and the speeds. I mean, all of it combining together is probably the biggest factor, and besides human error, contributing to crashes at this location.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, John.
And to the point that someone was making with regards to making a left turn onto Chestnut Street, it did seem to me from reading the crash that there were a few crashes that people thought that the person turning left was stopping to let them go through, and then someone bypassed them on the right, and that's how they got hit on the angle crashes too. So not having clear definition there when who's going left and who's and who's going through seemed like an issue. And I was just wondering from people in the areas, like, is that a heavy movement making a left turn onto Chestnut Street, or is it just occasionally?
Yeah, it's a fairly heavy movement.
It's definitely heavy.
I can tell you, lots of times to avoid that four-way at Chestnut and Hancock, I'll go down further and get on Hancock Street right at Randolph, and go past the fish market. That way you don't have to do the stop on Chestnut Street, either way. And when they put that roundabout there, probably won't have to do. I try to avoid that four-way at Chestnut and Hancock Street. And hopefully when we get the roundabout there sometime in the future, they'll do that. But still, a lot of people do make that left-hand turn. A lot of trucks and stuff like that too, because it's a pretty through route for trucks there too.
Mm-hmm.
John Stone, this is Jason Walters from DOT. I had a question about drainage in the area. I think actually the camera that's out there might be somewhere near this one catch basin that yeah, that's the catch basin. Yeah, it seems like it's somewhat of a low point, and I think I only saw maybe one catch basin. Do you have any drainage issues at this intersection? Any flooding or ponding?
I don't believe we do. I don't believe there's any flooding in the area. We've just cleaned all our catch basins recently because of the new MS4 laws that I'm sure you're aware of. But I don't know of any area in that intersection that's prone to flooding.
Okay, good. That's good news.
Sidewalk to sidewalk.
Fog line to yellow line.
All right. I mean, it can certainly entertain, people continuing to bring up any, issues that they notice here. But, this would be also where we, people can make suggestions for both short-term and lower cost improvements and longer-term capital improvements. So, John, mentioned they ultimately the town would like to see this signalized, and I agree. It's probably, the best long-term option for this. But then the reality is, knowing everyone in this meeting knows, a capital improvement like that is many years out. Realistically, if you started design today, it'd be 5 years, but realistically, it's probably, a project like that, you're looking maybe 6 or 7 years out at the earliest. So, unless they're, for whatever reason, just moved really quickly. So we would definitely mention signalization at this location. I believe that when we did that corridor study, it did satisfy signal warrants, but we would update the warrant analysis for that. But in the short term, we're looking for things that can be implemented here that could improve safety in the shorter term. I know John mentioned that's going to be the lighting that is going to be converted to LED, so that's certainly going to help. It's going to make it brighter at night, and that might reduce those nighttime crashes a little bit. Maybe improving, adding intersection ahead signage, advanced warning signage could certainly help, especially make drivers aware that intersection is coming up. The one thing I didn't mention is, just given the landscape on 139, we have a lot of curb cuts for personal driveways, residences, and you don't have any advanced warning signage that intersection is coming up. That intersection does kind of blend into the environment, especially with all the vegetation out there. So if you're new to the area and you're making that route, you come up on the intersection relatively quickly, and so advanced warning signage could certainly help with that.
Bill, I got just a short list of things that I saw when I went out to the site. Just gonna run down them. So like I think it was Bruce mentioned, teeing up the intersection, and primarily the Chestnut Street approach, I think is one of the things that we may even be able to do in the short term with paint. That being one option, I'm putting it in better alignment with old Randolph Street. That could help the skew and the angle that people approach. And I probably also evaluate where the stop bar is on that approach, so that people are stopping at a location where they can see in both directions and judge a gap a little bit better. Also coming from that direction, I guess if you're at the Chestnut Street approach and you're looking north, someone mentioned the trees that are on that northwest corner. It seems like there's a fence line there, so I'm not sure exactly where the property line is, but however we can improve the sight lines, that would definitely help. In addition to, I know we really didn't touch on, bike accommodations. Anna mentioned the pedestrians and the lack of curb ramps, but it seems like we have wide shoulders out here. We could look into buffered bike lanes, serving the purpose of bike accommodation, but also it might have a sort of a slimming effect to the roadway, a narrowing effect to the roadway, and may help reduce speeds, but primarily it would be for bike accommodations. And that's all I got for now.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Those are great suggestions, especially the bike lanes. I did forget to touch on that earlier, but yeah, right now obviously there's no bike facilities in that area, but yeah, it is a travel route, and there is, I don't know how much biking activity there is right now, and I know there's some, and just in our region, it's increasing every year, and so yeah, just increasing that mobility for bicyclists, but like you said, that would also have a potential traffic calming issue as well. So.
Bill, I see a lot of bikes on 139. A lot of serious cyclists, because I live on 139, not far from there. And yeah, Jason, anything that would help the bicycle accommodation in that area would really be great.
Thank you.
One other thing, Bill, that catch basin that we didn't talk about, it's great to hear that it's serving the purpose. The grate, though, seems to be oriented sort of 90 degrees. It seems like it's turned. Normally it would be in the flow of, it would run sort of parallel with the curb line.
Okay.
But, it's one of those things where if it's effective, I'm kind of hesitant to even say anything because, it's doing its job. It could have been purposeful to be that way, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yep. No, I know what you mean. Thank you.
Also, if, especially if it ends up, if there is the possibility of maybe teeing it up with paint and whatnot, given the width of the intersection, I was wondering if there might be a chance to stripe a left turn lane onto Chestnut Street in there. It seems like that the cross section is fairly wide. So, it just obviously has to be taking a greater look at it, but I think that maybe just looking into it, and if it's possible, it might be helpful to add that in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of pavement in that cross section, so there very well could be room to put in a left turn lane.
Yeah, I think that leads to a longer term solution of, teeing up the intersection with paint is great, but some vehicles are going to cheat the paint, drive over the paint. So the longer term solution would be using curb to realign the intersection. Realign where the alignment of Chestnut Street, and it may not necessarily be like bump out for the curb, but just making it so that it's clear what direction you're going in, what direction you should be in when you're stopped at that stop bar, as opposed to the skew that it's at now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we mentioned as issues, but I just wanted to put it as part of the improvements, looking at the ADA accommodations for, the ramps and the crosswalks, and also maybe taking a look at evaluating the location of the crosswalks and seeing if there's opportunity to put it in a way that it's, a shorter crossing distance. So if it's more perpendicular to the road.
Yeah, we'll mention that in the report. Look at opportunities where, like you said, if that crosswalk can be moved, and if there are places where both the crosswalk would be shorter, and also drivers would have more sight distance of the crosswalk, that would definitely be a good thing. Okay. Anything else? All right.
Bill, can I add one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely, John.
Sure. During both the evening and morning commutes, Hancock Street heading north on Hancock Street backs up because people are trying to avoid that intersection. So you have a backup on Hancock due to people trying to avoid the intersection of Chestnut and 139. I think Bruce alluded to something similar earlier. I just wanted to let the record know that.
Okay, and thanks for mentioning that. I wasn't aware of that, so it's definitely good to know, and make sure that's noted in the report.
I did, when I was working for Old Colony, I did the TMCs at Hancock and Chestnut, and I can remember, people do try to avoid that intersection. I think that's why we need to get that roundabout in there, because coming down that hill and all kinds of issues. So you got the issue of 139 and Chestnut, and then you've got the issue of Hancock and Chestnut, and they tie in together. So, we know that there's going to be improvements at Hancock and Chestnut. Hopefully, out of this conversation, we'll get some improvements at 139 and Chestnut and Old Randolph, because they all tie in together. And any improvements would be really great there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, John.
So one last thing about the speeds, just generally, increasing speed enforcement on Route 139 would be helpful, but then more of a long-term thing. I mentioned the roadway width because narrowing the roadway width can sometimes reduce speeds as well. So that's something we can look into, especially on that northern leg. But just kind of generally look into methods to reduce speeds on that northern leg because it's such a straightaway and it is very wide and sort of it seems like it's encouraging speeding. It doesn't seem like there's anywhere for a police cruiser to hide. So just something else to investigate.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, definitely helps. Anecdotally, there's a roadway that I use all the time. I'm not sure what it's called on Randolph. It might be Granite Street. In Braintree, it's definitely Granite Street, but it runs from Five Corners in Braintree up to Randolph Center. And yeah, probably about a year and a half ago, people used to fly down that roadway all from that whole section from Randolph to Braintree, and they put in bike lanes on each side, tightened up those travel lanes, and just just seeing it on a relatively daily basis, I've seen traffic slow down on that roadway just that one simple change. So striping like that and putting in those facilities can definitely go a long way. Okay. So if no one has anything else, and if you have any other comments you think of after this meeting or next couple of days, certainly email me. And you can certainly submit comments and any other issues you think of or any potential improvements. And, I'll make sure those get in the report. The timeline, Ray's going to touch on this as he wraps up the second half, but the timeline is for getting out a draft report is about a week, give or take. And so we'll send out a draft report with all of the background data that I went through, plus the all the comments that we discussed today, and you'll all have an opportunity to review that, and you send comments back, and then we can, then we'll finalize and go from there. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm going to hand it over to Ray, and he's going to go through the second half of this road safety audit.
Okay. All right. So I think we're here and everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, great. So this intersection was also part of a corridor study in 2016, the Abington and Brockton Route 123 study. So this is a Brockton Ave, Route 123 at Rockland Street intersection. Hope you can see this map. It's kind of light, but it's right next to Route 18 on this major, 123 major road that goes from Brockton to Abington. And so both Brockton Ave and Rockland Street they form a four-way intersection, but again, it's quite skewed. Rockland Street curves really quick as it meets Brockton Ave, and there's a de facto right turn on this southbound approach. It's actually a four-way with Elm Street one way away from Brockton Ave. So Brockton Ave is an urban principal arterial. It's under state jurisdiction from the Brockton line east to Bedford Street, which ends right at the signalized intersection of Route 18 and Route 123. Rockland Street is an urban collector and under Abington jurisdiction, and Elm Street is a local street. Stop sign approach on the Rockland Ave intersection The posted speed limits on Rockland Street northbound is 35 miles per hour. So as you move away from the intersection, it's signed at 35 miles per hour. As you approach the intersection, it's signed at 25 miles per hour. And Route 123 or Brockton Ave is signed at 30 miles per hour eastbound on Route 123. The average daily traffic volume back in 2016 for Brockton Ave was 19,724 vehicles per day. The 85th percentile speed was 37 miles per hour, and there were approximately 5.7% of the traffic were heavy vehicles. The average daily traffic for Rockland Street in 2016 was 5,216 vehicles per day north of the intersection, with an 85th percentile speed of 39 miles per hour, and 3.7% of the traffic was heavy vehicles. Also, there's about 400 feet distance between the intersection of Rockland Street and Brockton Ave and Route 123 and Route 18. And what happens during the peak hour is that this eastbound traffic will back up all the way through the intersection. So as we did turning movement counts at both of these intersections, we noticed how extremely congested this area all is right in here. So when people are coming down Rockland Street, trying to get through the intersection, trying to enter Brockton Ave, there's no place for them to go because traffic is backed up on this eastbound approach. And the other thing is, because it's a skewed intersection, if you're headed towards Brockton, you kind of lose track of where the road goes. So the speeds going from Brockton Ave to Rockland Ave are very high because there's this gradual curve. And sometimes it's hard to find where the road goes. You have to turn left, kind of left through the intersection. And also, to make matters a little bit worse, there's a crest of a hill right in here. So if you're standing up around the top of the intersection and you're looking towards Route 18, is actually you're looking down a hill. You're looking downgrade there. There's a number of curb cuts at the intersection. There's this Citgo station here. There's a bank over here, and you can see the curb cuts that are really close to the intersection. And there's also an Abington Fire Department station right at this, right here on the north corner here. These are just some views. This is looking from the one-way street, and you can see the pavement on Elm Street is really in poor condition. This is just a local road, and it's all one-way going away from Route 123. So this is on the opposite side. This is on Rockland. This is at the stop sign. The stop sign's on both sides of the intersection. Eastbound on Brockton Ave, and you can see the one-way sign here. And the road kind of curves around down to the signalized intersection. And finally, westbound, and this is what I was talking about, where there's kind of a Y, where this right turn would be really, speeds are really high on this right turn because it's just a gradual right. And sometimes it's a little bit confusing as to where Brockton Ave kind of picks up. You have to kind of turn left through the intersection there. Most of the crashes, as you can see from our collision diagram, are angle type, and there's a lot of crashes involving vehicles. Looks like they're going straight through from Rockland to Elm and colliding with vehicles that are headed towards Brockton in the westbound direction. 20 crashes in the 4 years of data that we had. The crash month kind of spread out during the year, as well as the crash week, although Fridays seem to be a lot on Fridays. And what stands out is the time of day, which is 4 to 6 p.m., 45% of the crashes. So what I'm thinking is that because of the queues through this intersection during the PM peak hour, these vehicles here, they kind of lose patience and they go out and they're trying to either go straight through or trying to make a turning movement. And because they're impatient, they end up in crashes, fail to yield the right of way, inattention, or being it says not keeping in the proper lane. Sometimes it's hard to find out what the proper lane is because there's so much pavement out there. Again, angle type crashes, 85%. Lighting doesn't seem to be a problem, daylight, but there were 20% during dark lighted roadway. Clear, cloudy, rain. 90% of crashes during dry surface conditions. And again, the driver's ages skews towards the young, 21 to 29%. 21 to 29 age bracket, 36%. So what I'm going to do now is to open it up for comments, and maybe I can actually go back to here.
Ray, while you're doing that, just one general question for you.
Sure.
So, your slides were actually pretty helpful during the last hour. So if you guys could email those out,
sure,
that'd be helpful.
Right, right.
Yep.
I just had a couple of comments. Again, this is an intersection that I'm very familiar with. When you talked about the issues of turning from Brockton Avenue approaching Rockland Street. Now, I'm going to suggest a whole lot of line indicators, but going on Brockton Avenue before you get to Rockland Street, as you're headed into Brockton, it would be possible to have like an arrow, marking the right turn and a straight. And at the intersection of Rockland and Elm and Brockton, if you could mark 3 lanes, if you could mark a left turn, a straight going on to Elm, and and a right turn going toward the intersection of 18 and 139. That intersection is extremely well lit because you got the bank, which is always lit, and the Citgo station, which is always lit at night. But another issue that I've thought of is that the fire station's right there. I'm not going to suggest putting another light here because you've got that light, but I'm sure that the fire vehicles, when they go toward 139, hit the traffic signal control lights and stuff like that. But I would think that that's an issue because Abington has 2 fire stations and those vehicles have to get in and out of there. Did you notice that when the TMCs were done there, was that an issue as far as, people getting in and out of there? And also one final thing, Elm Street is a one-way street. And I've done the turning movement counts there, and I saw a lot of cars go down off of 139 down Elm Street toward that 4-way at Brockton Avenue. And I wouldn't want to think what would happen there when that happened.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any safety lights for the fire department. I didn't see any when I was out there.
No, there's no lights out there, but I just wondered if that was an issue.
Ray, can I speak on this? The fire chief?
Sure, absolutely.
So we're very familiar with this intersection, as you can imagine, by spending, a lot of time at that fire station. And for every accident that you have recorded there, there's probably literally about 20 screeches of skid marks that we hear that do not actually hit. So I think the potential is much higher than the actual accidents that we do. We're so used to hearing near misses there, we don't even look anymore until we know that there's a crash, and then obviously we go. But that being said, a couple of things. I agree 100% what Bruce just said about marking the end of Rockland Street where it meets Brockton Ave with a left, a straight, and a right arrow, if we could do that. Because we've seen a lot of cars that are all the way over to the right side of Rockland Street, trying to go straight across. So everybody that's trying to take a right onto Brockton Ave towards Brockton, they get stuck in that traffic and they get angry and they either cut through the gas station and around, or they gun it to get around when they get a chance because they've been waiting. And we've got that huge wide road there that nobody's over the left side, basically. And, you know, those arrows may help if you delineate that lane. The other thing is the cars fly from Brockton Ave going up Rockland Street. And there's been many near misses with the apparatus trying to back in or come out, because sometimes it's hard to see and we're very careful, but they fly along that curve. I'm not sure what would remedy that. We do not have a light control there in the apparatus. We don't really have controls of the lights at the intersection of 18 and 123. Most of the Opticoms in a lot of our intersections, we haven't had the money on my department to repair those. A lot of those, they tend to get either outdated or broken. I'm not sure if that's a state budget issue or what that would be, but I'm not sure if that answers your three questions, but we are familiar with that. We see this not even in a daily situation, but like an hourly situation where everybody's backed up on Rockland Street. And I think the reason you're getting the spikes on a Friday at rush hour is exactly that. Everybody's impatient. They're tired of waiting in line on Rockland Street, and they're trying to gun across or gun up 123 toward Brockton because they've been sitting in that traffic. And that's where a lot of times I think these accidents have happened.
Right. And I think that maybe changing that curb alignment on the north side of Brockton Ave, kind of a bump out, so that when people go from Brockton Ave to Rockland Street, that right turn, if they're headed west and they're going right to Rockland, that they have to slow down more rather than have that. It's almost like a straightaway now, and that's why they're speeding. So maybe bump it out a little bit. That might help speed, cut down on those speeds. And the other thing is, you know, signalization might possibly be a solution. I know it's close to the Brockton Ave, to the Route 123 and Route 18 traffic signal, but you can coordinate those signals, and that might help, because what might be happening is people might be coming down Rockland Street to take a left, and there's a huge queue. They can't go left on Brockton Ave, so they just go straight through to Elm Street until they get to Route 18 and then take a left there. So they might be trying to cut through because they can't get in Brockton Ave at all. They might be frustrated. Yeah, and the other thing is, like you said, for the interim, to put in some pavement markings so that right turn, people going right can go right, and people won't block that lane from them. So yeah, these are all definite potential improvements.
Yeah.
Again, I just wanted to ask Chief Knowles something. I noticed that the lights at that Citgo station are very bright. Chief, do you think that's an issue at all, or do you think it enhances the lighting of that intersection?
I don't think so, Bruce. I don't think you're incorrect. In fact, I think a worse intersection is when you pull out of Walmart onto 123 up the street. The lights at that liquor store are incredibly bright. I can't believe we haven't had accidents up there, but that's a whole different subject. I don't think the lights may be an issue as much. If anything, they may be helping to illuminate it. Okay. And the other thing is, long-term, we're trying to get out of this fire station. We're trying to move this location to a whole different location. So I wouldn't probably recommend long-term looking to add fire control lights or like that specific for the fire station. If you're doing it for the intersection, that's one thing, but for the fire station itself, our ultimate goal is actually to get out of that location anyway.
Mm-hmm. I would think fixing the preemptor lights at 18 and 123 would really help you. I've counted that intersection. I thought I've seen them operate for police cars, but that was a few years ago. So you really got to have them, because that intersection is a trip and a half to go through too.
I think there's about 9 of the intersections in town. They have the Opticoms, and the majority of them, I think they were not working, and it may also be a software upgrade issue from what I was told, but I think it was roughly $10,000 per intersection, and that was a while ago,
Wow.
which is why we didn't pursue it. And I'm not sure, and most of these are on state roads, and I'm not quite sure who's actually responsible for that anyway.
Yeah, they definitely don't work. I was I was on that corner on Saturday, and fire apparatus coming south on 18. The Opticom was never triggered, so the equipment's definitely not working there. I did notice that. Isn't that related to speed turning onto Rockland Street? So there's a drag racing issue there too. So when you come in, drivers are coming west on 123 there on the east side of 18. Though there's two shared lanes, so the drivers can go straight from either direction, but then it immediately drops down to one lane just on the other side of 18. So another thing I see all the time is drag racing there. Two cars just racing each other, trying to get in front of each other and coming up on Rockland Street very quickly. And then if one of those cars is going to make that turn onto Rockland Street, then that's just adding to the issue with it making that turn incredibly fast.
Well, you have the traffic too, coming through the intersection of 18 and 123, coming from Abington Center, and they go through that four-way going up Brockton Avenue toward the Rockland Street, and they have to merge into one lane, and then they've got to turn right to go up Rockland Street. Yeah, to me, it just seems like you need to put an awful lot of arrows in the pavement there to delineate the directions. I think on all four legs of that intersection would really be a great help. Except for Elm Street, you don't need a lane delineator on that street, I hope. But at least three legs of that intersection, I think you really needed to have arrows that delineate the lanes. I think that would really be a big help.
The other thing, there's the pavement markings, the white hatchings that guide people through the intersection. That might be a help over here also. You know what I'm talking about, the pavement markings? I'm sorry, I don't know the technical term. I should, but they're basic guides through the intersection. They're not solid lines. They're broken lines.
Hash marks.
Hash marks. Thank you.
Or like dotted extension lines, yeah.
Dotted extension lines.
Yeah, that's the.
That's the
they call them cat prints or skip marks.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let everybody know, if you're not aware though, that there has been an RSA done at the intersection of Route 18 and 123 fairly recently, and there's a lot of those recommendations in terms of not having the two lanes coming through and because you only have one receiving lane and delineating things there. So that's just something to be aware of that I just wanted to let people know. And one thing I was thinking, I know those are not very effective, but just maybe doing a do not block intersection markings at the at the location.
Yep.
And then also just especially looking at the aerial, just maybe evaluating the location of the stop bar. I'm sure it's probably put there because of the fire trucks needing to make the turn, or so there might be I'm sure there are reasons for it, but just maybe looking if it can be a little bit more aligned with the travel path. It could be helpful maybe.
Got it.
Right now, if you depend on the kindness, if you're headed into that intersection of Elm and Rockland going toward 139, and the cars are coming across from Rockland Street going on to Elm Street, it all depends on if the light's green, no one's going to, at 18 and 139, no one's going to stop. But if the light's red, you have to count on people being nice to let people out of Rockland and go up Elm Street. And you can't always count on people being nice to do that.
Right, and I noticed that a few people do a couple crashes where people sort of encroaching on the westbound lanes to wait for a gap on the eastbound, and then the person on the westbound didn't really care and didn't want to wait.
Goes back to being people nice.
It wasn't the best.
Does anyone else have any comments or suggestions or questions?
One comment, well, you know, to sort of try and stop the cut through that people make from the Rockland Street approach, and using the Citgo gas station to sort of cut through. We could consider closing the driveway entrances the two driveway entrances that are closest to the intersection. Mainly just, I would probably need to do the one that's actually on Brockton Ave that's closest to the intersection. It might help prevent some of that cut through traffic. And even vehicles entering the gas station from there, they also prevent problems just because they're so close to the intersection, whether they're coming in or out. It seems like it presents an issue. And then, like, big picture, I know, you know, you would normally evaluate this intersection for a traffic signal, and sort of in that same vein, you would evaluate it for a roundabout. You know, this isn't something that we're, you know, saying has to be done, but it's more of just, you know, evaluate it, because there are a lot of left turns here. And we know that, you know, roundabout's one of those things that it really helps intersections that have a lot of turning traffic.
Yeah, it would cut down on the speeds too. Anyone else have any comments or questions? I don't see any. So I think that brings us to the end of our road safety audits. So the next step is, as Bill said, we're going to, our role, Old Colony Planning Council's role is to create a draft. We'll write up a draft and we'll turn that around and send that out to the participants for their review and comments, and we'll finalize it. And that will be turned over to the road owners and for the next steps for any action, which would be the DOT, the state, and the city and the town, rather, of town of Abington. So we will be in touch, and I want to thank everyone for their comments and for giving us your time. And if anybody has any questions, or let me see, I think I had my put my contact information up there, right there. And Bill's is the same, except it's B McNulty, or is it W McNulty, I'm sorry, at ocpcrpa.org. So
Yeah, exactly. So it's, email either one of us, and like I said, we'll get that draft report out in about a week. And thank you to all the Abington officials here and MassDOT, and as well as Representative Sullivan's office. We really appreciate all of you taking the time today to help with this process.
And thank you, OCPC. You guys, Ray, Bill, you guys did a fantastic job. And even though I don't work with you anymore, you guys still did a great job.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.